What's up, gang? Danny Rude,
Yo,
Johnny Brath here, coming to you. We have been sending you Deal of the Week every week for almost a year now. Been doing it on Tuesdays recently, and we kind of thought maybe it would be helpful if we sort of broke down this Deal of the Week by explaining why it's really a deal based on our experiences, based on our knowledge of the market, and kind of sharing with you what may or may not make sense.
yeah, I love it, Danny. Yeah, we realize, our price ranges over here are crazy. We're telling you, hey, this is a deal at a $650,000 condo, and you're going, John, that's cost more than my house back at home, right? So, yeah, I thought this would be a cool idea, Danny. And we're going to start out today with basically a compound in one of our favorite communities on the south side. It's its very own district, and it's for rebels. Danny, what are we talking about?
We're talking about Maui Meadows today.
Maui Meadows. So Maui Meadows, literally on the border of Kihei and Wailea. Technically, Kihei is the district, and Wailea McKenna kind of supposed to be lumped in there together. But for us, they are distinct areas. But Maui Meadows, typically always on a half-acre lot, and there is no HOA in Maui Meadows, and that's
Ding,
why
ding,
we
ding. That's a
feel
win for a lot of people.
that's it. So no fees, right? And more importantly, none of the pesky restrictions that typically come
No
with
rules.
HOAs. That's it. Now, that could also work against you sometimes. I just saw a home that closed recently with a beautiful view that I took a look at, and it brought the money. But when I showed it, literally there was somebody next door. Maybe you're too old or too young to remember this, but it was Sanford and Son, if you would. Like literally, this guy had a blue tarp over his roof because there was a hole in it and stuff. And this is, multi-million-dollar neighborhood, but he's a rebel too, Danny. He's living his rebel life there. So
Rebel
what are we
Patrol.
looking at here? We're looking at 3161 Mapu Place. So real quick, I'm going to give you a quick little map. Am I showing the map there, Danny?
Yep, I see it.
Cool. So Mapu Drive is actually one of the drives that you come in to Maui Meadows on. And so just going to kind of give you your bearings here, guys. So is this Keonikai right here, Danny, or is this Kilohana? That's Kilohana.
Kilohana.
Yep. So Kilohana Road, you go south and you park down in this area to enjoy Keabakupu Beach. So Keabakupu Beach is probably one of the most well-loved beaches on the South Shore. Incidentally, it also houses the most expensive listing on Maui right now, owned by an actress that's on Yellowstone. $65 million, isn't it, Danny?
65 million.
Picked it up for $45 million in 2021. Going to shelter in place because of COVID. And now they're going to flip it for a cool 20 million profit if they get it. But back to Mapu Drive. So sometimes you got to get worried about Akalala Drive and some of these on Mapu because they're close to the highway. Keep in mind, guys, it's Maui, so it's a Maui highway. But this one on Mapu's a little bit more centered. So that's the location of our compound. It is on a corner lot as well, which is nice for privacy. And what are we looking at? Well, this is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,014 square foot main house. Could you build up on that, Danny, and add to the square footage?
Sure could.
It's for rebels. Of course you can. So you could do that and add to the square footage there. There is, in addition to that, a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, detached cottage. And then, in addition to that, a charming 496 square foot cottage. So we are looking at 3 different houses on one lot. Now, Danny, because it's for rebels, what do we always see on these lots where there's multiple houses on it? What do we see this throughout Maui Meadows? We see it up in Pukalani a lot. Laniopoko, let's pick on them. What do people do with compounds these days?
Sometimes they CPR it.
They CPR it. And we're not talking about bringing you back to life because you're drowning. We're talking about condominium property regime. So what we would do if we wanted to CPR this property, and I would probably CPR it, Danny, just to have it done, even if maybe I'm not going to do the exit strategy that CPR leads to. So we would hire ourselves an architect because we need to make sure that we're in county regulations of sizes for some of these dwellings. And then we'd also get ourselves a real estate attorney. Condominium is not a building. Condominium is a method of ownership. And so what the attorney and the architect would do is they would create exclusive common elements to a portion of each one of these dwellings. So from the 0.52, maybe they shave off 0.25 for this guy right here. And then the other two guys, 0.125. So that would be an eighth of an acre for these others here. So quarter acre lot for that guy, eighth of an acre for these. Maybe we stick the pool into the main house. And then because subdividing's not allowed, we condominiumize the property. Everybody has their own exclusive common elements, which means this guy is not allowed to come over to this guy and vice versa. Now we've done that. So what we could do, and maybe this is what somebody's going to do as a flip CPR, is they come in, CPR the property. Cost-wise, going to probably run you around $25,000 plus to get this done. They create actual condominium documents. There's a declaration of CPR. There's maps that are drawn. You literally have to come up with bylaws, etc., all done for you by your attorney. And then you could actually sell each one of these properties off one by one. And I think this guy alone on a quarter acre with a pool probably gets fought over if I listed that at $1.5 million, Danny.
Easy.
And then I make people fight over the one bedroom because I list that at like $699 and nobody's ever seen anything for $600 in Maui Meadows, and they fight over that guy. And the studio I list for maybe, I don't know, 5.99, 575, something in there. So I don't know how much that all adds up to there, Danny, because maybe somebody doesn't make a big chunk of change off of this thing based on the price there. So that's where negotiating.
That's an easy 200,
bro. Right? Bingo,
but
bango.
I bet you get some price, a little bit of competition and feeding frenzy if you throw in something at 500,000.
And keep in mind, I'm a realtor, so I'm always going to talk lower numbers because I'm going to be held accountable for selling this thing for you. So that's one thing that can be done. CPR it, sell off portions. You could CPR it, sell off two of them, keep one. What else could we do here, Danny? Well, if you're like my wife, she wants each one of her kids to have a house on a piece of land. Now, we haven't talked to the kids about whether this is their dream, but this is my wife's dream. So we could have a beautiful multi-generational compound here. Mom and dad, they give their kids each one of these houses here. Maybe the kids just use it when they come over because they don't live here in Hawaii, or maybe they all live in Hawaii and they all live on this compound here, or maybe they just have it because in case something happens. So you'd have that flexibility here. And I think a lot of local families love this idea, right? Everybody all on one lot. The other thing, Danny, what's another alternative to this? What do we get asked for 50% of the time from clients?
They want to buy something that they stay in part of the year. They want to rent it out the rest of the year.
That's what they want to do, right, Danny? And a lot of them want to buy a house. And what do we have to tell them? What are our rules over here for vacation renting a house?
Well, right now, if you buy a single family residence, you need to own it for 5 years before you can apply for a vacation rental license, which even then could be a little bit challenging.
So 5 years for a maybe, because all kinds of different factors work in here. How close is the other vacation rental permit if there's one? And if there's one too close, well, you can't do it. What's another thing you could do? You could live on this place and you could turn it into a double
Bed
B.
and breakfast.
B&B. That's another thing you can do there. I'm not sure. I haven't looked into it, but my understanding is because you're living there, maybe a little bit easier to get a permit. Now, keep in mind, guys, if you are successful in getting vacation rental permits on these compounds, they will not transfer to your next buyer. So just keep that in mind there. What's the
Yes,
easy
the
button
bed
here,
and
dude?
breakfast one. The bed and breakfast is a different application than a short-term rental. So
It is.
there is some possibility to do that right out the gates. But
There
now
you
you're
go.
asking about the other one. So what else could we do?
Well, so what do most people, when they tell us that this is what they want to do, they want a house, they want to rent it because they want to come here part of the year. And we always groan and go, man, here's what the scoop is. You got to own it for 5 years. And then it's a maybe. But now because you have multiple dwellings, right? Maybe you're keeping this all for yourself, 2 bedroom, 2 bath. When you come over to Maui, have a wonderful time here, getting out of the snow or the gray or the rain. And you just come hang out from maybe you're here from December through April. And the rest of the time you're back home. And meanwhile, you've got these long-term rented. And there's some wonderful tax advantages that Maui County has when you use their new tax designation long-term rental. So we'd make this one non-owner occupied, which means second home. These other two would be taxed much less because they would be considered long-term rents. So we would fill out a form before the end of the year, long-term rental exemption form. We would then also submit that with a 1-year lease. It has to be for 1 year. And the county would then tax us so much less than most other tax bases. And you could do this with any one of those. You could make the studio your very own, rent these other ones out here. And now you're right close to Kealakapu Beach. You could get yourself the golf cart lifestyle that I live myself. You could cruise down because everything in the area is going to be 35 miles per hour or less, unless you get on the highway where you'd have to be on the side. But you could literally cruise to Kealakapu, Danny, right from here. And you've got the
Easy
pool for your
peasy.
resort style living, right? So all it's going to
And
take
what you
is just,
don't have, what you
yes.
don't have is HOA fees.
And what are those doing right now in the condo market, Danny? Those are taking
Going
all
to the
the income.
moon.
Taking all the income, dude. The taxes you'll pay on vacation rental condos are absurd. I'm talking 7,000 for a studio.
And up from there, depending on where it is. So less taxes, less HOA. That's part of why this becomes a deal, as many of you tend to want to use it in these sorts of fashion, a little bit creatively, part-time. So saving that cost, which is not a one-time cost, right? HOA is monthly, property taxes twice a year. So reducing those things could make sense for someone.
It is huge. Literally, let's just take your average, vacation rental condo AOAO fee, Danny. Is it okay if I say $2,000? Would you agree that
I'd say
that's becoming?
2,500
So let's
at
go
this
two
price point.
grand.
Yeah,
Let's go.
2,500.
So let's say 2,500. So what's that going to be? That's going to be 24,000 plus another 6. That's 30 grand that you get to keep in your pocket.
Annually.
$30,000 that's in your pocket as opposed to the AOAO's pocket. What do you feel what do you think goes up most or quicker, Danny? Residential compound here in Maui Meadows or a vacation rental condo at like Wailea Elua?
What goes up in terms of value?
Yeah. Do you think that this one goes up more or faster than the condo? I'm not sure. I think it depends on the market, but
Yeah,
it's an interesting
good
thing to
question.
consider, right? And I think that, this may not work in all subdivisions that are out there. I don't know if this would work at like, Central Maui at Kealani. I don't think that this would work there, but this is in a resort area. So
Sure
you
is.
got local living. If everybody can pool their money together, get a nice little compound here. No AOAO, no HOA. So if you want to continue to develop this, make everything go 2-story, You just have to work within the county rules and regulations there. We could CPR this thing here and sell off different portions to make ourselves whole. I've definitely seen it to where people have been able to sell off portions and then basically own their compound, their portion of the compound for free. Now, maybe you can't do that right out the gates, but you can definitely do that in the future. I feel strongly. So that is the deal of the week there. Half an acre, 2.595. Guys, we're 96 days in, and this guy's already dropped his price 300,000. Now, I guarantee you the conversation went like this. All right, Mr. Seller, we're going to list at 2.895, but because you told me you want to sell it quickly, you have to agree to allow us to do price reductions as we're not getting showings. And I'm going to tell you, this may not work for most people because of these bed bath counts. It's a 2-bedroom, a 1-bedroom, and a studio. But man, dude, for me, that's a beautiful alternative to a vacation rental condo. Retire on Maui, own a compound, have it pay for itself, live the dream.
There you have it. This week's deal of the week.
That's it. I'm going to stop